we have two BAFTA winners here, amazing. And so how's Betty doing? How's Betty doing? For the context, guys, she named her BAFTA award Betty.
Yes, Betty BAFTA. Betty's doing good. I haven't seen her in some time. She is in my living room. I'm not in my living room. She's in my bedroom. She's right next to a jewelry box. Yeah, she's doing great. Last time I checked on her. I should probably hit her up these days, see how she's doing. I've been loving my time in California. I got to keep her updated.
Well, Chris, just to get started, can you just talk about what it's been like to be with this franchise for almost 10 years now, since starting this from the very beginning?
First of all, it's been a blessing, to be kind of at the genesis of this age of storytelling in games, and it being story-driven rather than just to get you to the next battle. It's really become the preeminent forum for storytelling and entertainment. So it's been fantastic.
Amazing. And with you, you actually joined the franchise about when you were 13, 14, and can you just talk about that experience now, looking back at where you started?
Young?
I was 14, I think. Yeah, I think my first mocap session, I had just turned 15, but my audition, I was 14. Yes.
Wow. So,
Sunny
wait.
was 13.
Well, I met Sunny when he was 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So wait, I'm old enough to be Pops. I'm old enough to Kev, I'm old enough to be your daddy. Yeah. Yes, you can.
That's hilarious. It was, I was 14 when I first sent in the self-tape for Angrboða, and then, like I just said, 15 when I booked it and started working. But I truly didn't have, I didn't really have an idea of what I was doing at the time. I mean, you get these auditions in your inbox, and I mean, with something as confidential as God of War, they don't tell you anything about the project.
Yeah, they got snipers all around us.
They got snipers, like, it's like Marvel, truly, yeah. And then on top of that, they don't give you like the actual names either. They're probably just giving you dummy sides. So going in for the callback and like chemistry read and then even the self-tape, I truly thought I was auditioning for a movie. But the chemistry read was on a mocap stage, and I was looking around and I was like, this is not a regular movie set. It was just a brand new experience for me. I mean, a lot of my past experience have been in some TV and some film, and so gaming was like this new opportunity for me, something that I was extremely fresh and green in, and I feel very lucky and very grateful to people like Chris and also Matt and Eric, who really set that foundation for me from the very beginning to make sure that I felt comfortable. And so, like, getting into this new space and being creative in it, it just felt so safe and was such a lovely experience because of the amazing people I got to work with on it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know this. So, because we were in lockdown, you could only have like 16 people on set or 17 people or something like that. So I was used to going into the volume, even when I didn't work, just to be there, so for Ragnarok I wasn't able to, but they allowed me to watch everything from my office so I could see all the different cameras, and I watched, that whole day was magic, but I watched her scene. I was calling Eric, and then finally Eric picked up and I said, Eric, that's magic, dog. Damn. Like, that's magic. Like, so rarely do you witness what we kind of all hope for in this business. And I was in my office like bawling because it was beautiful, man. Like, you really don't get a chance that often to see the magic happen. Absolutely. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Thanks, Chris.
No, it's the truth.
Look who's
It's the
talking,
truth.
man.
It's the truth.
Good round of applause.
It was.
That means everything to me because, I mean, we didn't get too many scenes together. I think I remember that last day on set and I got to see you and Sunny have that beautiful moment. I mean, every time I saw you on set, I was pinching myself. I was like, I mean, again, like, that's such a lovely thing for you to say, but, like, truly, to bring this character to life is such a huge feat. And even though I didn't get, like, many scenes with you, even to be there on that last day and to witness it, I learned so much just from, like, that hour of being on set. So that's a testament to you.
And just piggybacking off that, what was that last day on like for everybody when, all right, this is the last thing, we're wrapping it up. This is 3.5, 4 years of our lives that we put into this, and it's about to be over. What was that day like?
Yeah.
I have really bad separation anxiety. So, I mean, I knew I would see some people, like when we had to do, when we had to be in the booth and stuff like that. But I also knew how many people were leaving and were going on to other stuff that won't be back. And so it was actually really difficult. And Dory, who had been with us from the beginning, you know, I knew something was up, but he came to me that day and said, "Hey, Chris, this is my last day. You know, if I'm moving on to here, and just want to let you know." And so it was terrible, man. It was, you know, you want to celebrate success with the people who you're successful with, but that's just a lot of times not the nature of the beast. You know, when things are done, you move on. You kind of very often don't ever see the person again, you know. So it was really, there were some really heartfelt goodbyes and tears because a lot of them people, you know, I've been with for 9 years.
So what I'm hearing is you need to tell Sony we need to get that God of War third one in the works so we can get that team back together. That's all I'm hearing right now. That's what I want in my life. But what about you? What was that last thing?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously had joined in like 2019, I guess, so it was still very fresh for me. I mean, but we had been working on it at that point for, like, I think for me, before we even got into the recording booth, was like 2 years. I just remember that day being extremely emotional, piggybacking off of what Chris was saying. Like, you do create such beautiful bonds with these people. And we also had to deal with a pandemic in the middle of it. So for a lot of that time was like, okay, we had like pre-pandemic stuff where we were able to like see each other and like truly bond and have chemistry. And then there was like the element of like nobody touch anyone, nobody talk to anyone. And then towards the end of it, we were actually able to at least give each other a hug with a mask on, you know? So all of those elements were there, and again, you just never know when you're going to see these people that you've spent so much time with and that you've been able to build bonds with. It's one of the best parts about being a creative or being in this industry are those bonds. So yeah, I remember it being extremely emotional, and then there was a little thing in the back of my head where I was like, I still wanted to give people their space on like I haven't been here for the 9-10 years. So I was like, I'm gonna let them do their thing. But I mean, you guys made me feel like family from day one. So yeah.
Family from day one. That's the truth.
Thanks.
And Chris, I wanted to ask you, something you said a while back was that you felt that God of War in general kind of reinvigorated your career, kind of had that spark. So can you elaborate on that and just what it means now, looking back at that to where you're at now, being one of the most iconic voices in video game lore or history?
Wow, you laid that on pretty thick.
Just to look at your facial expression.
But I agree. It's very odd. We're in a business that's not a meritocracy. So, you know, after coming off of doing a show for 10 years, I just thought I'd be flinging deals aside. And then I got slapped in the face with reality. Not only did we go on strike, there was a worldwide financial crisis, so the business was pretty much at a standstill for almost 2 years. And then when it restarted, I was like going back in auditioning. But I'd also gone through a lifestyle change because I was at that age, you know, I was 50 years old, and I had to decide, am I going to be a drunk, or am I going to reinvest in this and see what transpires? So, yeah, I decided to not be a drunk, quit drinking, and I got into the best shape of my life. And I will never forget when you sent me that audition. I was like, wow, this is great. And then the more I read, the madder I got, because I realized this was going to be a big A-list project, and there was going to be a list of names that they were going to offer it to, and I probably wasn't going to be on that list of names. So I call you just fit for bear. I had every cuss word in the known language ready to go, and you said, okay, wait, just listen. It's a video game. You can imagine my response. And Tanya said, no, just, they promised me it's shot like film and television. It's gonna be different, and it's, as you see, it's story and character driven. Just try it, just see how it goes. And kind of the rest is history. And so if you had told me almost 10 years ago that a game would resurrect your career, I wouldn't have believed you. But now people are clamoring to get into gaming, to be able to tell big stories, not have to fit them into, you know, even 3 hours anymore. Like I said, it was inconceivable to me 10 years ago.
And Leah, I do have a question for you as well. So what was your preparation for, even once you found out, all right, this is it, I'm doing not just mocap, but you're going to have to voice a character, put your heart into it, the emotions, especially with Atreus. So can you just talk about what your preparation was for this role?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was like I had to know what the game was because I really wasn't familiar at all with any of it, truthfully. Yeah, it was like hours and hours of just like YouTube videos, like recaps of the last 20 years and what's happened in like the God of War world. And then I had like my first lunch with Matt and Eric, and they sat me down and they were like, do not look up anything on Angrboða. Like, do not search anything up. What you will find is not what we want.
What
So,
did you
of
do?
course, I looked it up.
Of course.
Yeah.
You had to.
And it was completely opposite of what they were telling me they wanted Angrboda to be. But I think, like I was mentioning a couple minutes ago, they were kind of the first people that I had ever worked with that were very interested in knowing my take on the character. They really wanted me to take agency over who Angrboda was, add any input, ask as many questions as I needed. There was obviously like an expectation. I don't want to say there was any pressure on my end. I didn't feel that. But there was certainly an expectation knowing how successful the first game was. And it was nerve-wracking at first. And then just having that initial meeting with Matt and Eric kind of just like brought all those walls down. And again, it just made me completely comfortable and safe. So a lot of it was like backstory work, and then scene analysis, of course, and a lot on Norse mythology as well, which I also got to do a bit of research on. But again, I was still trying to create my own character outside of whatever the internet said about Angrboda. And even conversations with Sunny, too. Like, it's really interesting because you see in like our first scene together in the game, at first couple scenes are pretty awkward, and like we really got to just embrace being like 13, 14, like on a set together with like new people. And I think that's like able to translate in the scenes because we were still like kind of awkward, trying to push each other's buttons, figure out what was working and what wasn't. And again, that all stems from that foundation that Matt and Eric were able to set in the very beginning. And I really do thank them so much for that, just for those conversations, because it's helped me, like even just that one lunch helped me so much with how I approach every other project that I've been able to do afterwards. So yeah, mainly it was lots of conversations with Matt and Eric and a lot of YouTube videos.
Speaking of Sunny and Atreus, so my question to both of you, first you, Chris, is you've been able to be with Sunny for a minute now, and speaking of you just being a father yourself, what was that like, especially with this one? I was on the crying a couple of times, and I was like, dang, they really got me. So what has that journey been like, just seeing him grow, but as a father yourself?
You know, I've been very open about 2018 was pretty much a love letter to my children, and it was an apology for not being there for a lot of their stuff because I was working. Well, some of it I was working. So it was difficult because there's just certain places where, as an actor, you always have to make a decision with every role. How much does this character deserve of me? How much does this writing deserve of me? And when I asked those questions, the answer was, you've waited your entire career for this material. You got to let it fly. So that's what I did, but it was, in retrospect, it was easier because I have a great relationship with my children, and it was just kind of an explanation of how I felt the whole time. I was never taught to be a dad, you know, so I kind of just had to discover. Ragnarok was much more difficult because it was about me. And my reluctance to, as a man, think to be able to digest that I deserve to be loved. I'm worthy of being loved. So that's something I've struggled with my whole life. So there was just places I just really didn't want to go, but I had to. If I was going to be honest with this character, you know, it deserved it. So Ragnarok for me was a lot more difficult, but also because of the state of the world then. You know, we had what we were going through as black people culturally. We were in isolation, and I was dealing with the darkest stuff of my life that I had been in therapy for decades to get rid of, you know, and I had to dredge it up. And I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad that I was able to use it for something constructive because it hadn't been something constructive my entire life.
And just real quick, like I getting into a little bit of spoiler territory. If you haven't played the game, you're playing yourself. But so you're getting into spoiler territory. I apologize, but in the end, when he's looking at the wall and he sees this gold and then he's just standing there, he sees that satisfaction. Can you just particularly talk about acting that scene out? Because I felt it was like all of the weight of Kratos, it felt like lifted off his shoulders.
The first take of that, it just went sideways, and I couldn't reel it in, and it went on and on and on, and I was a mess. And this is my relationship with Eric. Eric walks over and puts his arm around me and says, "That was fantastic. Now can you give me one we can use?" But that is, you know, why I love Eric. He's a worker. So he lets you go through what you need to go, but he's a tactician. He knows exactly what he needs for it to work, and whatever method you need to get there, he allows you the time and space to do it. Well, everyone does. I mean, that is what is. See, you're lucky. You get to experience this in your youth. You know, was somewhat fortunate in other stuff I did, but this was the first place where everyone's really pulling for you to succeed. Everyone wants you to be, everyone facilitates you being great and celebrates you being great, and vocally and physically appreciates you and shows you love and appreciation. And it's the most supportive place I've ever work-wise, ever been in. You know, it's like everyone knows everyone's names. It doesn't matter, Cameron, sound, everyone knows everyone's names. Everyone knows everyone's kids' names. And there wasn't that thing where you have to tiptoe around and be quiet. And, you know, you've been on stuff where some people come on set, you got to start whispering. It's like, who died? Like, this is entertainment. It should be entertaining to do. And that's not saying you shouldn't be serious when you need to be serious, but the vast majority of it should be fun, you know, and that's kind of what we strove to do the whole time.
And lately you spoke about this as well, but can you just talk about, piggybacking off that, talking about that environment and juggling that with school and your personal life and things like that? How was that?
Oh my gosh, well, like you were saying, that's why there was no, it didn't feel like there was any pressure on me, truly. Like, all those nerves were just kind of gone away, because again, the people that we were able to work with on this project were just so unbelievably kind, unbelievably generous. I still talk about them as like some of the best cast and crew that I've ever gotten the opportunity to work with.
Some of the best?
Some. Chris,
Just want to make sure I heard right.
Chris, let's not do this here. Let's not do this here, Chris. Just kidding. I mean, everyone was such a joy to work with. No, but truly, they were. And like, you don't get that very often. I was, I mean, especially like you were saying, I'm so young and still trying to figure out this new atmosphere and like space to be in, and just again to have people who make you feel comfortable and who want you to bring your own. They literally just wanted me to be like 14, and anything that you want to bring to this character, like, we are open to it. Bring it to the table, at least try it, you know? And that helped me so much more with everything else. But again, like you were saying, there's things like school and personal life, which it just kind of, I guess, brought it back to the fact that, yes, we are 14 years old. We are kids, like, doing something. Somebody told me something yesterday or the other day, and they were like, oh my gosh, so were you like doing school, and then on your lunch break you were like, oh, sorry, I got to go back and do God of War. Be back, you know?
So where were you? Like, how was that, or did you have a teacher on set or something?
Yeah, you have like a studio teacher, you have a set teacher. You end up like doing, it's been a while, but you have to like bank hours so that you can have time to also work. It's like a regular school day, but instead when all the adults break, the kids go to school. And like I said, they have like a set teacher, and that person is there to kind of protect you in a lot of ways. And again, it feels much more safe. It's a very safe environment when you have your studio teacher there. But it is a lot to balance. And I was very lucky because like in the middle of filming, I took like a test where I no longer had to do set school while filming. And I remember Sunny coming up and being like, "You're no longer in school anymore. I'm gonna do this alone." But yeah, again, it's always fun when you're able to balance it nicely.
Absolutely. And piggybacking off of that, we're just going to talk about some of the other characters that were not introduced, but in this lore. First, with you, Chris, we got to see some flashback scenes with Faye, and just those are some also emotional scenes. But can you just talk about working with Deborah and getting to share scenes with her?
You know, Corey had pitched me what his thoughts were on looking at the backstory with Faye. And I think he always kind of wanted Deborah. It was weird for me because I was like a fan of hers, a fan of the show. And she was just, like, literally 9 years, they never missed with casting. It was, we were introduced, she was introduced to the rest of the crew and whatever cast was there that day. I think it was just her and I because we had the first half day together. And they let us just go off and talk. And nobody was looking at their watches, we just talked. Within half hour, it felt like I had known her my whole life. And so it lent an air of comfortability to the working of the scenes, because those scenes happen previous to 2018. And I hadn't given much thought to where in my transition from the old genre of games to 2018, where in that transition Kratos was supposed to be. So we kind of just felt our way in the dark, and Corey was on Link, and Matt and Eric were on set, and so they just let us feel our way through it. And it was, so this is the kind of place we have. Yumi, the president, the head of Sony Santa Monica, came to my trailer at lunch and said, when Corey pitched this, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And she said, I watched it, and she said, I can't believe how wonderful it was. And that's very rarely do you have your boss, especially at a studio, come to your trailer to tell you that they thought something was great, especially when you haven't negotiated it yet.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I haven't had that struggle yet.
But it was just, that's how collaborative it is there. That there isn't tiers there isn't a hierarchy. And we're just a bunch of human beings who want to do some great work together. So let's facilitate it. And it's very easy. It's very simple. It doesn't need to be complicated.
And some of those were some of those scenes really got me. But I do want to ask you though, Laya, apologies. Laya, I'm messing everything up, Laya. I even, we talked about that backstage. I'm embarrassing myself.
Man.
I had it. I was like, you killed that, but
I take it back now.
Wait, yeah. I mean, he's trying to do some work over here.
Hey, chill, no. I'm married. But Laya, can you talk about what it was like working with Deborah and how was that? Because I know she's very impactful. She goes all in when she commits. So what was that like working with her?
That was one of the most incredible experiences I've had in my career thus far. Like, truly, I think I had only maybe 2 days with Deborah. We had like just the rehearsal day, and then we obviously filmed the next day. I had never worked with, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about her like methods, but I hadn't worked with anyone who was a method actor before. And it was intimidating at first, just having someone completely there, like already ready to go. No warm-up needed, like all that's done at home. She came in and it was just ready to go, especially for a scene that's so emotional, and I knew for me was gonna be a bit of a tough one. So I was already a little intimidated then, and I was kind of intimidated in rehearsal, seeing her there. But in some odd way, it added so much comfort for me during the scene. I guess it's not really that odd. But her being so present and just, again, having her own process and not letting anyone interfere with that process, I really respected. And she did things in those 2 days that challenged me as a young actor that no one had ever done. I mean, even honestly, just watching her for the short amount of time I did, like I was able to learn and gain so much just from viewing the way that she was able to, again, just be there, just be present in it. She would do these things where, like, before anyone called action, I mean, it was kind of before, like, everybody was kind of doing their own thing, and she would let out, like, these wails, like, these absolutely gruesome screams. And like usually I would be like, what? Like what's going on? Like everybody good? But because we knew what the element was, it did, I mean, in a way, it helped me just kind of feel more present in the scene. I mean, already as an actor, you want to do everything you can to also make sure that the person that you're working with is being supported and feeling comfortable as well. And she would come up to me before the scene started, and she wouldn't say a word to me. She would just look, like dead in my eye, and not say a word, and just like. It was just like this. It was like the most horrifying look. She would just stare at me. It was like the fact that she was not talking was even more horrifying. And in that scene, that's the same way that Angrboða is feeling. But she's just present in the moment. So again, having that before action was even called. In retrospect, I think about it now. It was like 3 years ago. But I think back at that moment, I'm like, whoa, that moment with her, being able to work with her in those 2 days, I've been able to like gain so much and think about the way that I want to approach my own performance or certain scenes differently, simply because of that. So yeah, the way that she impacted me then, it's really hard to even talk about it. Yeah, it left a true mark, yeah.
You know, nobody knew this, but I had worked with Deborah a few times over the years, and I actually didn't know she had been cast. So I was just I knew that day was coming, so I was just looking at the call sheet. I called Maddie, and I still didn't tell him I had worked with Deborah before. Yeah. And I said, you're going to have the most terrifying, exciting, magical, mystical, going, what the hell was today day you've ever had? And I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be great. And Eric called me, and he said, wait, you know Deborah? He's like, why didn't you warn us? I was like, how do you warn against a storm? How do you warn against a force of nature? She truly is the most powerful human being I've ever worked with. And, you know, she's achieved a great amount of success, but I still think that vehicle that's going to just showcase all of her is still waiting for her. Because y'all ain't seen, woo.
And just speaking about video games and that vehicle to really launch her or just show off her acting abilities, just in general, what do you got? Can you just talk about video games as a medium as a whole and how you see that changing or evolving in the future, especially with other actors and actresses joining and taking on more roles as in this medium?
Well, you know, studios used to have to come after people to do games. Now people are going to studios, not only to do games, but pitching them. And some of the preeminent storytellers in our business are doing it. So it's, I mean, as great as it seems now, we've just scratched the surface. So the best is yet to come.
And so for you, like, you were new to the video game world. Would you be open to doing more video games? Let's say a franchise is doing a new video game. Would you be open to joining that?
That's not even a question. Yeah, like, absolutely. I mean, this team showed me just how incredible and like fulfilling an experience can be. Like Chris was saying, like just having the opportunity to collaborate with your fellow creators was just such a it was just a very fulfilling experience. And then on top of that, after the game has come out, just seeing what the gaming world community is like, just getting a little glimpse of it, a little taste of it. They've been so open and warm, and it really has been so beautiful to just be able to experience. I feel very lucky to have had that. So yeah, there's not even a question about doing more games. I will say, it's always going to be about stories, and it's always going to be about characters. And I think it's a testament to the video game world, and it also shows that with this game, something that's so popular, like people are yearning for these types of stories to be made. And you get so much time to be able to do that in gaming. and with recent success of certain TV shows that I won't mention because yes, strike, it's being taken much more seriously, and I'm so excited to see what that leads to in the future.
And I was joking about it earlier, but the ending of the game, it gives us a powerful, it leaves it open for both Kratos and Atreus to go off on their own journey. Especially.
Does it?
I feel like a little bit it shows Kratos he can go across 9 realms. There's no more Norse.
Can he?
Okay. I'm just leave it open, but do you, personally for you, do you have any hopes of where Kratos ends up or what he does next? Or the next,
what I've
without getting in
learned
trouble with anything.
in this business is to not look forward to anything. I'm living in our success.
Ooh.
That night at the BAFTAs was so beautiful. And when you won, I mean, that was the best part of my night. I ain't gonna lie. Awards to me are, I would say the icing, but they're not even the icing. It's to me, they're unexpected and they're nice. And that the fact that people appreciate what we do, that's great too. The win is doing it. And when I've learned that these moments don't come around a lot. So to enjoy them. And also I've learned I can control what I can control. I have no say in what happens next. I have no druthers about if it happens, where it goes. If it does, wonderful. If not, we did something great, and that's enough.
Love that. That was a good spin on that question. I won't lie. That was, you got me.
I've been doing this a long time.
That was all right. You really got me on that one. But just speaking of the BAFTAs and winning, what was that whole day like? Because I know that was your first time even going to London. So what was that?
What did I talk to you about before? Okay.
You said a lot of things.
Well, I know. Okay. Well, I mean, this ain't no secret. It happened. So with the live action BAFTAs, there's a lot of black people nominated, and no black people won.
Yeah.
So just wanted to, but it was a great trip. It was great, and I said, here's the win, right here. Here's the win.
Yeah.
We don't put nothing on, getting the award or not getting the award. This is the win. We're here, and let's live in this. And then it was like, Laya DeLeon, what? Yeah. So, 2018, Jeremy had, but there wasn't a separation of lead and supporting. In fact, that day that I was watching, when I talked to Eric, I was like, man, F you, somebody else just took my shit. Like, and that's always the joke. Like, everyone that they bring in is like, but this was a whole nother level, right? So, part of me, when I stopped crying, I was like, well, that's cool because I don't have to go up there now because they ain't gonna give it to 2 black people. This Britain. So I truly was just kind of relaxed and comfortable, and like, it didn't really register that they said Christopher Judge. And it kind of went by me because I really wasn't paying attention. That's how much I was just like, this was the win. This was the win. And if you notice, I sat there and I kind of was like, I think this fucker just said Christopher Judge. Yeah. So it was, it was a great blessing, but this was this was the night right here.
That conversation that Chris pulled me aside before we even went into the room where they held the BAFTAs. That moment that we were able to have beforehand meant so much to me. I remember we were both getting emotional in that instance because Well, one, I hadn't ever been to Europe. I was making jokes with my family at the beginning of the year, like, haha, imagine if we just went to London, you know? I found out about the nomination via Instagram, like, yeah, like it was truly just like a dream to already be there. And then like Chris was touching on, I mean, to be a black person in a space where we are not represented enough at all. And then to be acknowledged and to be nominated as something even more special. I mean, and then to have that moment with Chris, someone who's been a part of this entire world and has had to go through certain challenges. I mean, I also remember on Twitter the amount of comments that were not very nice about Angrboða being a new character in the game, you know? There's just so much that you have to deal with already as an actor, person of color who's a person of color in this industry. And so, like, little moments like the one that we had before the BAFTAs just make it even more special. And then to win is just like, it's still unbelievable in some sort of way. Like, we all know, like, I think me and Chris both know, like, hell yeah. I told him, like, nah, black people gonna win BAFTAs tonight. Because I knew that, like, there was no question about it. But truly, it was, like, unexpected for me. I was sitting there just, like, happy to be in the room, which, I mean, is a kind of a feeling we get too comfortable with at times, like, just to be happy to be there, you know? And I remember, like, they called my name, and it was like my heart just stopped, like, went to my stomach, and I looked at my mom, I looked at my dad, and I was like, yo, what the heck? You even see it in the speech, I'm just like giggled, because like stuff like that, they tell us like that's not supposed to happen for us. That's not written in the cards. And obviously it is, so.
You know, it's, this is a tough business. To see someone celebrated that isn't jaded yet and who hasn't been broken and had to recover from all in this business that isn't fair. It was just so wonderful. It was your reaction and just the purity of your joy. Like, it truly made me feel like young again. It made me feel like when I used to dream about, you know, being Sidney Poitier or you know, whoever, Harry Belafonte or whoever it was, before you had to walk this difficult road. I just had a moment of pure joy. And you just don't get a lot of them anymore. And that's what it was. It was to see this beautifully gifted young woman to get some flowers before this shit has a chance to break you. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
I feel like, you know, like we're already getting close to the edge. I feel like that's a perfect way to wrap up this panel. I feel like we got to end it on a high note like that, talking about those beautiful wins. So I want to say thank you guys so much for giving me some of your time, giving BAFTA Masterclass some of your time, because this was just getting to speak to you guys, just seeing the characters I love come to life and getting to witness this right now. It's a pretty cool moment, and what just happened is just, I can't believe I got to be up here and sit there and witness this. So I want to say thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for watching online, wherever you're watching this, whatever. But truly, I want to say thank you to Chris and thank you to Laya for being here and being amazing people and being amazing characters. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank all of you.